At first, the images appeared ordinary, just a comet-like smudge drifting across a field of stars. But once NASA refined the data, what surfaced was so peculiar that even senior scientists avoided making public statements. The interstellar traveler dubbed 3I Atlas, already notorious for defying orbital physics, exposed something no natural object should ever show. Hidden within the newest high-definition captures were patterns, formations, and dynamics that seemed deliberately constructed rather than random. If these visuals prove authentic, they could redefine humanity's understanding of the cosmos. When the James Webb Space Telescope initially targeted 3I Atlas, researchers expected a routine analysis, collecting sharper data and confirming its odd composition. But the joint imaging project between Webb, Hubble, and several ground observatories produced a revelation so startling it was nearly withheld from release. At first, the composite resembled a standard false-color rendering, dim and indistinct. Yet as astronomers enhanced the spectra and layered exposures, something extraordinary took shape: geometric precision. Unlike any comet or asteroid known, 3I Atlas revealed crisp, repeating angular structures concealed within its tail. Parallel lines intersected at perfect right angles, resembling a framework or scaffolding. Some dismissed these as processing errors, but when three separate instruments across different wavelengths verified the same grid-like pattern, quiet speculation spread. This wasn't natural outgassing, it looked architectural. Even more disquieting was how the tail behaved. Instead of streaming away from the sun like every other comet, it folded backward in a stiff, controlled arc, as if guided by invisible machinery. Normally, a comet's tail is a disordered jet of ice and dust sculpted by the solar wind. In contrast, 3I Atlas appeared to emit exhaust in a directed manner, as though engineered. The public reaction was instantaneous. Online spaces filled with talk of alien megastructures and cloaked probes. Elon Musk joked on X about renaming comets entirely, while others drew parallels to Oumuamua, the first interstellar object that Avi Loeb had controversially suggested might be artificial. This time, however, the visuals left far less room for skepticism. NASA hasn't officially labeled the geometry as artificial, but leaked internal reports hint that a special analytic task force is quietly studying the raw images. The question now extends beyond whether 3I Atlas is natural. It's whether we've just captured evidence of technology that predates human civilization. Yet the greatest mystery wasn't in its tail, it was buried in its enigmatic core. As researchers probed deeper into the enhanced Webb data, the findings grew increasingly unsettling. At the heart of 3A's Atlas, where a solid rocky nucleus should be, the sensors detected nothing. There was no mass, no glow, no emission. Only an absence, a void that absorbed every wavelength and registered as a complete blank in the readings. One ESA analyst described it as a hole in reality. Yet the darkness wasn't silent. The darkness wasn't silent. It isn't silent. It ever. With the darkness wasn't silent. It all the features it is. It is regardless wasn't silent. It is which is silent. Every 11.2 seconds, a faint infrared flash repeated like a steady heartbeat. Natural phenomena rarely display such precise timing. This pattern was exact, consistent for hours. Cross-referencing the data revealed that the pulses aligned with distortions in nearby starlight, twisting into spirals instead of the curved arcs typical of gravitational lensing. It was as though 3I Atlas wasn't simply bending light. It was rewriting Atlas wasn't simply bending light. It was rewriting righty. That suggested its nucleus wasn't a physical rock at all, but a spatial cavity folding geometry itself, a region violating known physics. Scientists at Caltech cautiously proposed a radical interpretation. The core might function as a transit chamber, where compressed space allows instantaneous travel without inertia, a potential propulsion mechanism far beyond human capabilities. The general public never heard those details in NASA's official briefings. Instead, leaks from anonymous insiders triggered a media frenzy. Reports labeled it the heartbeat of 3I Atlas. Social media coined the term alien engine, And conspiracy theorists claimed governments were preparing for contact. But if the core wasn't solid, if it truly was an engineered void, then the terrifying question emerged: what inhabits it? What it? This rotten habits it. Inhabits it. The Turtis Roclegmis, Mistavan Rishes, Stages, Blading, Blazon of these, Bissu Leaf, Robas and Woven of its incident. The surface patterns deepened the mystery. When the stacked raw images were enhanced, analysts saw strange geometric striations etched across its outer shell, grids, spirals, and precise angular features, unlike anything observed on natural comets or asteroids. Early skepticism blamed sensor artifacts or cosmic ray interference. Yet repeated independent observations from Webb, the Very Large Telescope, and even advanced amateur equipment confirmed the phenomenon beyond doubt. More bizarre still, the lines weren't static. They shifted and glowed faintly in the infrared spectrum, slowly drifting like magnetic currents or coded sequences crawling across a display. Some likened them to runes, others to circuitry, and a few daring experts hinted they resembled encoded instructions. Online speculation erupted. Was 3I Atlas transmitting a message? Were the shifting geometry's coordinates, warnings, or a form of interstellar communication aimed at intelligent receivers? NASA offered no clarification, igniting more rumors that crucial data was being suppressed. Independent researchers worldwide then collaborated on analyzing the geometrical intervals, producing a shocking result. The spacing between illuminated bands followed prime number sequences, precisely what SETI once theorized an intelligent broadcast might resemble. Accident or intention? No one could say. But as the patterns brightened, they began altering local starlight, sculpting beams into organized shapes, forms disturbingly reminiscent of symbols. If 3I Atlas was speaking, what was it trying to say, and to whom? Even its motion defied logic. Astronomers had already classified it as exceptional for its chemical composition and trajectory, but fresh tracking data exposed something far stranger. Instead of drifting naturally under gravity's influence, 3I Atlas executed exact maneuvers, minute yet controlled shifts inconsistent with random outgassing. NASA's orbital analysts spotted it first, a 0.19 degrees course adjustment within 14 hours. That may sound minor, but at interstellar scales, it was immense. More tellingly, the change wasn't erratic, it was exact, suggesting intentional thrust. Independent confirmations poured in from Arizona's Lowell Observatory, Chile's Gemini South, and Japan's Subaru Telescope, all observing a consistent sunward push. When scientists modeled the acceleration, it aligned perfectly with the luminous jet analysts had already compared to engineered propulsion. If this deviation were purely natural, it would make 3I Atlas the most efficient comet ever recorded, somehow venting mass at precisely calculated angles to generate power and precision nature shouldn't allow. The accuracy was eerie, even deliberate. The object wasn't drifting, spinning, or tumbling. It was steering. Within NASA, quiet discussions began about forces beyond standard gravitational physics. A leaked report even likened its acceleration pattern to ion drive emissions, the same propulsion system used by spacecraft such as Dawn, but magnified to a scale hundreds of times greater. Then a darker question surfaced. If it was steering, where was it heading? Analysts observed that its revised path lined up almost exactly with Earth's orbital plane. Even more unsettling, its timing positioned it behind the sun in October 2025, completely hidden within solar glare, beyond observation. Was 3I Atlas concealing something during that window, or ensuring we wouldn't witness what came next? Whatever the reality, one fact became clear. This object wasn't passive. For weeks, telescopes tracked 3I Atlas as a cold, dim body, venting only a faint jet of carbon dyed jet of carbon dyed carbon dyed jet of 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 carbon dyed shen. But when the James Webb Space Telescope switched to its deepest infrared mode, something pierced the darkness. Deep within the object glowed a steady, pulsing light. It wasn't the chaotic flicker of heat or reflected sunlight. It was precise. Every 11.2 seconds, the core brightened and faded as if controlled by a timer. NASA initially suggested an unusual spin cycle, but rotation couldn't explain an inner illumination source. The light was coming from within. Spectroscopic analysis deepened the mystery. The emission wasn't thermal like molten rock or chemical combustion. Its spectral fingerprint closely resembled photonic signatures produced by lasers or engineered optical systems. Could 3I Atlas contain an internal power generator, a reactor, or something beyond current understanding? Scientists rushed to interpret it. Some argued for fractured carbon dioxide releasing bursts of light. Others proposed radioisotopic decay. Fringe researchers, however, claimed the pulse represented deliberate signaling and intentional communication. When mathematicians analyzed the rhythm, they discovered repeating sequences aligned with prime numbers. The implications were enormous. Prime numbers have long been viewed as a mathematical language of intelligence, rarely created by natural processes. Could 3I Atlas be transmitting not toward Earth, but across interstellar space? And if so, who was meant to receive? The glow not only pulsed, it intensified. Over consecutive weeks, its brightness increased, warping surrounding starlight into spirals. Some astronomers speculated about small-scale gravitational effects, as if a miniature lens resided within the object. If natural, it was the strangest natural event ever recorded. If artificial, it confirmed one haunting conclusion: 3I Atlas was active. As the luminous rhythm strengthened, another uncanny effect emerged. The glow appeared to reshape reality itself. When the final images arrived, even the staunchest skeptics were shaken. Around 3I Atlas, space seemed to distort. Stars that normally shimmered in straight paths now warped into arcs and spirals, as though unseen forces were twisting the fabric of the cosmos. Initially, scientists assumed gravitational lensing, similar to what massive galaxies cause. But a glaring contradiction arose. 3I Atlas lacked the mass to bend light in this manner. Instead, the distortions appeared to radiate from within, as if it were manipulating geometry itself rather than gravity. Light curved inward, not around, creating impossible angular distortions. Some frames even showed stars duplicating, momentarily appearing in two locations before merging back. Analysts at Caltech likened it to a localized fracture in spacetime. Others used a more chilling term, a gateway. If those images were authentic, 3I Atlas was performing a feat no known natural body could, altering the very rules of reality. What unnerved NASA most wasn't simply the visual distortion, but its timing. Each burst of internal light perfectly coincided with a ripple in surrounding space, suggesting a direct causal link. Destus link, causal link. Others just direct causal link. Of this is causal link. Of Governmental is link. Testing a direct causal link. The phenomenon wasn't random. It synced precisely with the pulses, implying controlled interaction. Speculation erupted across the scientific community. Was this technology being tested, a propulsion method, or evidence of a higher dimensional construct embedded in the object? Some theorists proposed that 3I Atlas wasn't traveling through space conventionally. It was manipulating space itself, displacing distances instead of accelerating through them. If this was true, then the object wasn't merely another interstellar wanderer. It was a machine capable of transcending physics, a vessel that did not exceed light speed, but overcame distance altogether. And perhaps most disturbing, the distortions it produced followed an eerie, deliberate order. They were angled precisely, all pointing toward Earth's orbital trajectory. The looming question became clear: what would occur once 3I Atlas reached conjunction? When it passed behind the sun, hidden from every telescope, would it reappear unchanged? Or would something else emerge from the distortion with it? Whispers of a cover-up rippled through NASA. The moment images of warped starlight began spreading internally, information suddenly tightened. Public feeds from the James Webb Space Telescope were discreetly suspended. Observatories holding raw data were directed to recalibrate, and scientists who had been sharing updates online fell silent overnight. To the outside world, it appeared to be routine housekeeping. To insiders, it was a lockdown. Anonymous sources described a much bleaker situation. One leaked document from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory allegedly labeled 3I Atlas a national security priority. Another suggested that classified briefings had been provided to the Pentagon and unexpectedly to the U.S. Navy. What connection could exist between an interstellar body and military readiness unless the object's behavior carried strategic implications? When reporters sought clarification, NASA's press officials repeated the same vague statement: the images were under review, and the distortions were calibration errors. Yet behind closed doors, defense experts were already evaluating hypotheticals. If the distortions meant Atlas could alter space itself, if its inner glow was more than a beacon, what if it represented a weapon? Across the internet, theories surged. Conspiracists claimed hidden bunkers were being prepared. Others speculated that sudden naval exercises in the Pacific were linked. Elon Musk added fuel with a cryptic post on X: if reality glitched, would you notice? President Donald Trump, speaking at a rally, accused NASA of concealing the greatest cover-up in American history, drawing roars from his supporters when he insinuated the government knew far more about space visitors than it admitted. The cultural shock spread swiftly. TikTok feeds filled with breakdowns of the leaked imagery, influencers insisting that the prime number patterns represented a countdown. Reddit discussions speculated that Atlas wasn't solitary, but part of a fleet lurking behind the sun. Every day NASA remained silent. Speculation grew louder. Then came the most alarming disclosure. During one of the distortion surges, a block of telemetry from web systems wasn't corrupted or damaged. It vanished, as if time itself had been deleted from the feed. If a machine could erase data in real time, what else might 3II? What else might 3I? What else might 3II? Bus might 3II betches? With the distortions, byfclosures, redefine. What else might 3II? What else What else might 3II? What it was disgracing. By late October 2025, 3I Atlas slipped into solar conjunction, the period when it became completely invisible from Earth. No telescope, radar, or satellite could detect it for weeks. The sun's glare formed the perfect blind spot, and in that silence, fear took hold. Online forums filled with apocalyptic predictions. Some insisted it would never come back. Others warned it was about to appear within Earth's orbit. The most chilling voices argued it was using the sun as a shield, preparing for a move no one was meant to witness. When 3I Atlas finally emerged from behind the sun, NASA issued a short, sterile update. The object's apparent size had increased by nearly 40%. To casual readers, that sounded like a brighter cloud. But astronomers recognized the anomaly. Comas can expand, but this reading implied added mass. The object itself had grown. Internal leaks described something even more astounding. According to those memos, the last web captures before conjunction showed the body separating, not in chaotic fragments, but in deliberate, symmetrical divisions. It wasn't destruction, it resembled transformation. Segments detached evenly, forming arcs that suggested mechanisms unfolding, like panels deploying or compartments opening. When Atlas reappeared, analysts observed 3 smaller bodies moving behind it in perfect formation. Some dismissed them as debris. Others called them escorts. The implications were seismic. For years, official accounts framed 3I Atlas as a comet, peculiar but natural. Now the evidence pointed elsewhere. An arrangement, a construct, a functioning system acting with precision. If it could divide, expand, and maneuver, then it wasn't a passive rock at all. It was operational. The global reaction was immediate. Markets faltered amid rumors of unexplained cosmic developments. Intelligence briefings leaked across NATO and the US, warning of potential artificial origins. Media pundits argued over whether this signified humanity's first confirmed contact or its first cosmic threat. Elon Musk wrote, "Deployments are never accidents. President Trump declared at a campaign rally, NASA knows, the Navy knows, and they're not telling you the truth. Beyond the uproar, one fact settled uncomfortably into place. The foundations of physics had failed in real time. Objects in space don't expand without cause, don't divide into symmetrical modules, don't emit patterned pulses of prime numbers, and don't curve starlight like molten glass. Yet 3i Atlas had done all of these. The true dread wasn't in what had already happened, it was in what might follow. Because if this object could unfold, duplicate, and control its motion, then it wasn't merely passing through. It was aware. It was active. And the question haunting scientists, defense agencies, and stargazers alike was the same. When it stops only watching, what happens next? Thanks for watching another episode. While you're still here, tap the video on your screen for more in-depth coverage.